Hi, I'm Jennifer from Shabby Fabrics with another fun DIY video I think your kids are going to love. Now, when my kids were little and we'd go on a road trip, they were always kind of nagging me. Are we there yet? Are we there yet? I'm bored. Well, we've come up with a fun travel tic-tac-toe project that'll help keep your kids busy, and you'll actually have some peace of mind when you're on a road trip or maybe on an airplane or wherever you're traveling. So let me show you how to make this. The project that we have here is made out of bandana. It's by me and my sister Designs by Moda Fabrics, and it's so cute. There's 5 colorways, a beautiful complement of fabrics. We made one sample in the aqua and the other one in the pink. I'll be showing you today the aqua one, but I wanted to show you how cute too it is in the pink. And it just takes 2 fat quarters, and we also used a little mini charm for the X's and the O's. So let's get started. Now, I mentioned there are 2 fat quarters needed for the actual game board, pocket and back. We've chosen the aqua colorway, and I've showed you here how we lay that out and cut it. Now, don't forget, you can always go to the Shabby Fabrics website. On the very bottom, there's a link that says pattern downloads. Just click that, and everything that we'll be talking about here today as far as measurements will be right there for you, including the labels that you can cut out and stick on to your own pieces of fabric, so that helps you stay organized when you're making your own travel tic-tac-toe board. So we'll start off with the actual game board. I want you to notice the lines that are on here. Of course, those are sewn in. So I've cut that piece, of course, ahead of time. You saw that, how we had it laid out. Let's start with that. And again, I like to keep my fabrics labeled with those labels that are downloadable, because then I don't get confused as to what piece I'm working on, because I have done that before where 2 sizes were very similar and I actually crisscrossed those, and it did not work out well. Let's just say that. So starting with your game board piece, which is 8.5 by 8.5, notice how you're going to come in and you're going to draw a line from the right side, and you're going to come in from the left and draw a line. And that measurement is actually 2 7/8 inch. You'll come in from the side and you'll draw a line. I'm using the friction pen, and I want to encourage you to use the friction pen instead of something that's a permanent marker, because especially if you're going to be using a light colored thread, you don't want to have that pen showing through. With the friction pen, as I've shown you this 1,000 times, I'll show you 1,001 times, the friction pen erases with heat. So let's just draw that on. And I'll just show you a quick, because I love doing this demo more than any other demo. Watch how I heat it. And of course, I don't want to get, this is hot, so I don't want to, look, it's just gone. So if you, oops, I marked the wrong line, no big deal. And that's why I love the friction pen. It's for projects just like this. So again, I mentioned you're coming in from the side measuring 2 7/8. Now don't just measure 2 7/8 over from this line, or you'll actually be off. So we're going to flip that over, and we'll measure 2 7/8 inch inward again, okay, like this. And we'll just draw our line, and you'll turn it, and again you're going to come in and measure here, and you're going to measure here, so that you have this crisscross. Now, just to save time, I won't keep marking that. You get the idea. Then at that point, you will come in with, let's see here. I've got one finished ahead of time. Let me show you what that's going to look like. You'll just come in and you'll choose a thread that coordinates with your fabrics. Now, we chose a nice color 114. I think that is the, let's see, that is a really cute, I think it's fuchsia. But this is the Masterpiece thread by Superior Threads. It's 100% cotton. Alex Anderson endorses this product, and so do I. Absolutely love it. It's 100% cotton. And we've got these really great color cards. The Masterpiece comes in 75 colors, and I think that was our color right there. A Sweet Pea was the color. So whatever you want to choose, you'll just choose kind of not too wide of a zigzag, but you do want to shorten your stitch length so that you have a nice line, and you'll just go ahead and sew in that. Now when you're done sewing your zigzag and creating your lines, you can take that to your ironing board at that point, and I encourage you to do that. So if there is a little bit of that friction pen showing through, just heat it up and it'll be absolutely gone. So now that the game board's ready to go, we'll go ahead and start assembling with bringing the sides on and then the top and the bottom. So let's get those pieces out, and we'll start with sewing. You'll have the two sides, and it's very important that you go ahead and sew the sides on first, and then we'll press that, and then you do the top, because as you can see, you can't do the top first because it's just not lined up for that. So we'll go ahead and put the sides on, sewing those 1/4 of an inch. We're going to press that open, and then we're going to sew the top on, right sides together, sew your 1/4 inch, press, and we're going to do the same thing with the bottom. Right sides together, sew your 1/4 inch and press. So when I come back, this whole unit will be assembled and will go on next to the pocket. Now that my background piece has been assembled, we'll start working on the pocket. That's your 10 by 3.5 inch piece. So let's remove that sticker. Now let me show you on the actual project here. It's just that top edge that will be turned down 1/4. Let's just do this together. Let me bring this over here so you can see what I'm doing. Show you how we get into that. And then I actually did one ahead of time. Stitch it down. So you'll fold this down 1/4. Just follow along with your iron, just like we have in most of our DIY projects. And of course, the reason you're folding down twice is just so you don't have a raw edge. You tuck that in, and we'll do that again, like that, all the way down. Okay, so you know how that goes. And then you'll take that to the sewing machine, and I've done this ahead of time, and I've sewn about 1/8 of an inch stitch all the way down just to secure that. So now that that is completed, we'll take this to the main game board, the background here, and you will position that on top. And I want you to go ahead and put some pins in, and you're just going to run a basting stitch, or you can just run an 1/8 inch stitch all the way around the 3 sides. Of course, leave that pocket open so your little X's and O's can go in there. And when I come back, I'll show you how to bring the backing, this piece, and the batting and the ribbon all together, and we'll finish up the project. Now that our pocket is basted onto our, I guess what I would call the game board, now we'll get our backing piece, which is 10 by 3.25, and the piece of batting, again 10 by 3.25. Make sure your pocket is down here toward you and the top is this way, up at the top. We will now put the backing. These are right sides together, so this will be wrong side up. Line it up real straight. And sometimes when you get this piece together, you might sew a little bit bigger than 1/4 of an inch. I do that often. And sometimes this piece might be just a little bit bigger. No big deal. Just trim it down to match. Don't worry. Don't feel like you have to start ripping things apart, seam ripping. That's just not necessary. You can always trim that down. Your board will be just a little bit smaller. So layer those right sides together, and then we're going to go ahead and put the ribbon. Let's put the ribbon next. This is a 32-inch length, and that, of course, is when you roll your game board up. That's what kind of ties the whole thing together. So we just got a pretty pink, and make sure your lengths are about the same. You're going to want to sandwich that in between with just a little bit of that loop poking out so that you know what's in there. And we'll kind of just make sure too that those ends stay away from the sides so you don't accidentally get that sewn in there. So you might want to just kind of loop that around. And you want to find center, which is about like that. You know what, let's give it a little press, because that doesn't really want to stay there, does it? Necessity is the mother of invention. That's what I've learned along the years. You just go, you know what, a little press is going to help that not move. So let's do that like that. Great, that's about center. We'll lay that on there gently. And then we'll put the batting right on top. Just like that. And I know the first place that I'm anxious to pin actually is this, because I want to make sure that stays good and centered. So I'm going to pin that right now so that doesn't go anywhere. Okay. And now you'll continue pinning. So you'll pin all the way around. Now at the bottom, leave a good, I'd say even 5-inch opening. You're not going to have to stitch that down by hand. So I know sometimes when I know I'm going to have to do a hand stitched close the seam, I tend to make a narrower opening, which just makes it really hard to turn the project out. But this is all going to get top stitched. So leave a nice big opening, maybe 5 inches. So stitch all the way around, stop, leave your opening, make sure you reinforce where you end and reinforce where you begin. And then once that's done, you'll make sure you clip your corners, and you're going to turn your project right side out and press it. So when I come back, I will have sewn from here to here to here, leaving my opening, clipping my corners, turn it right side out, and I will give it a press, and then I'll show you how to finish that, and then we'll move on to our X's and our O's. Now that I turned the tic-tac-toe board right side out, of course you have your opening. Now I sometimes will use my friction pen or maybe even the point of a scissor gently, nothing quite like that blunt, because you'll go right through your fabric. Maybe a larger scissor that has a more blunt tip, or maybe you have another tool that you like to kind of get in there and get those corners out. But just work it through, and you can feel that little bit of that batting in there. I pressed everything, and you have this nice little ridge here for which you can sew along. And if you have, you know, a zipper foot, sometimes people like to use that to stitch along, or maybe a walking foot. Now with the opening, as you would suspect, we're just going to go ahead and turn that down the 1/4 of an inch, press. We'll do the same for this side. Just like that, get it good and pressed. I'll just move quickly here so we're not taking too much time. Of course, you'll go ahead and you'll want to pin that so nothing's going to move on you. We'll just put a couple pins in here. And then you would take this to your sewing machine, and I'll show you on our finished one so we don't take too much time. We can move on to our X's and our O's. You will just top stitch. You can start here even if you want to, and you're just going to sew about 1/8 of an inch, maybe a little bit more than that, inside here all the way around, and that kind of holds that batting that's in there. It kind of secures it. See how there's this kind of just that natural ridge. You can kind of just flow right along there. That might be a good reason to actually, you can maybe start along the side and then hit this on the way, but you'll just sew that all the way around, and that's the game board and the pocket. Now for the X's and the O's, how fun is this? Super quick and easy. We've got the prefused laser cut shapes, you know those by now, Shabby Shapes, and we're going to have a special tic-tac-toe set. So you can just go get your X's and your O's. These are 2 inches tall. You'll literally just peel off the fusible webbing. This is Heat and Bond Light product. You'll choose your favorite charm squares out of your little bandana, a mini charm pack, or whatever you're doing. And consequently, if you're going to be working out of your stash, you use 2 fat quarters you like, and these are 2.5-inch squares. So if you don't have, if we don't have the mini charms that are in the colors you like, or you want to use your stash, use your stash. 2.5-inch squares is what you need. I think we chose 5 X's and 5 O's. We worked out that's how many you need to do the tic-tac-toe. But you'll get your charm square, your mini charm square, and you'll go ahead and you'll put your X on there like this, and you're just going to iron that down with a medium heat. Hold it on there for 4 or 5, maybe 6 seconds. Now you have a choice of going ahead with maybe a black thread, or if you like white, and that'd be really cute too. And you can just stitch that down to the background. If you think you're going to be using this a lot, I would encourage you to do that. If this is more just once in a while, I don't think I'd take the time to stitch down. And I love, again, to use the Masterpiece thread, that cotton thread. It makes a great and very nice, and has not quite a shine, but it's just so solid, so secure. We used it to stitch down several of our projects. In fact, we used that for here, as we've talked about. So choose whether you're going to stitch it down or not. Then get your backing. Let's say I like this fabric on my backing. Then all you're going to do is come in with an 1/8 inch stitch, and you're just going to stitch all the way around, and now you have your X's and your O's. That's all there is to it. So how quick and how easy is it to make this portable and fun travel tic-tac-toe set?